What's good, Atlanta? This is the Blog and Dirty Podcast, where Dirty Bird is the word if you haven't heard. I'm your host, John Buhler, staff writer, fanside.com. We have a game this week, believe it or not. It's been a long time since we won, but I don't know if we're going to win this week anyway. But we have Alicia de Artola Castillo, my colleague on fanside.com, who is the Penguin of Troy. USC diehard, also roots for the Chargers. So we got Falcons-Chargers this week. Falcons coming off a bye. Chargers coming off Monday Night Football loss in the Harbaugh Bowl. Alicia, welcome to the program.
Hello, thank you for having me. This is fun. I don't get to talk about the Chargers that much.
No, like on .com, we mostly cover the bigger teams, but it's interesting.
Don't get me started. I think it's hilarious that I ended up working in a space where 90% of the content that I write about NFL is just like the Chiefs are really good. It's like,
yeah, it's frustrating, and I write about stuff like what are the Saints doing? That's
yeah.
But yes, so Thanksgiving is going to be tomorrow. I know you and your husband have probably got something really exciting going on here. I got something going on with the girlfriend. We're going out to my dad's house after tomorrow after we have dinner with my mom because divorced parents, it's fun times.
Yeah, you're doing the double Thanksgiving dinner.
We sure are. Yeah.
I've heard tell about the perils of the double Thanksgiving dinner. Thankfully, thankfully from my perspective, my husband doesn't like Thanksgiving, so he's never been part of his like family's Thanksgiving tradition. So it's my holiday, and we get to do it my way with my family. One spot, only need to worry about saving room for whatever room we are crazily enough wanting to save on Thanksgiving, which is none. So
it's not the least bit surprising that Michael doesn't like Thanksgiving food.
Yeah.
No, it's Rosemary's favorite holiday. She loves the food, and I'm there.
See, that's a green flag.
Yeah, that's how it is. And I don't know if we've got green flags here, but let's do a vibe check. Let's try to figure out what exactly is going on here with our respective NFL teams. Falcons fan, Chargers fan. So Falcons are 6-5. Chargers are a win better at 7-4. I'll let you start since you are the guest. How are you feeling about the Chargers year one under Jim Harbaugh, 11 games into it?
Honestly, better than I expected to. I was really happy with the Harbaugh hire. I think he's an outstanding coach who has proven himself at every level up and down. And you know, he's not perfect. He's a psycho. And he's a little bit weird, but he's a really good football coach. So I felt confident when they hired him that the Chargers would come around to be more competitive than they'd been. But I didn't expect them to come out and start, winning consistently in year one the way that they have. I'm not creating any delusions in my mind. This is still a team that isn't fully formed. And I think it's telling that they've lost pretty much every game against teams that they've played that are good or decent. Losses to the Steelers and Chiefs and Ravens. And I'll even throw the Cardinals in there because I think the Cardinals are playing really well this year at times. They've sort of figured themselves out a little bit. So the Chargers are winning games that they ought to win and losing games that they ought to lose. And that's not necessarily a sign of like a competitive team, but it's certainly better than where the Chargers were, which was perennially losing games that they ought to win with leads and blown leads and just horror. So yeah, I'm feeling quite good. I think I never expect to feel this good about the Chargers, but I think that things are coming along and we are seeing the Harbaugh effect, I think, in year one. And as far as year ones go for me with coaches, it's just like create a vibe that's positive and wins and losses you care about down the line.
Same boat here with Raheem Morris, although he had been here on Dan Quinn's staff. 15-20 was the interim. Division's not as competitive as the AFC West is. We've played the Chiefs, barely lost, and then got absolutely smoked by the Broncos. Have not played y'all yet, and have not played the Raiders, who are having a bad time. And
The Raiders are always having a bad time. That's the plus.
I think y'all have played the Panthers and the Saints, but not the Bucks yet, if I'm not mistaken. Okay.
Yeah, that's coming up.
So 7-4, you're beating all the teams you should. You're not beating all the teams you shouldn't. So you're right there where you need to go. One thing I was kind of following from afar, again, I was watching a little bit of the pregame for Chargers Ravens on Monday night and everything. And it was the Harbaugh Bowl, and they were talking about the Harbaughs growing up. So their dad used to time them to run upstairs, grab a beer, and bring it back down to the to watch Boston Bruins hockey. And there's like these 10-year-old boys are sprinting up and down the stairs with like glass bottles in 1970.
And we wonder why Jim Harbaugh's a little bit of a psycho.
Yes, the competitiveness never turns off there.
Yes.
But I guess like the big takeaway that I had from the Chargers loss to the Ravens was the receivers. It's Ladd McConkey and Quentin Johnston is not it. It's basically what I'm kind of got from afar. Am I that far off?
I mean, Ladd McConkey is it in a bubble, like in himself. I think that Ladd McConkey is a great addition to this team, and I could see down the line when he's sort of the number 2 receiver, that being a really fruitful sort of offense through the air if they had a true number 1 next to him. Quentin Johnson is not that. He's having a better season this year. I mean, he has 6 receiving touchdowns, which is good. But the drops are just it doesn't matter how great you play at any given time when you are dropping passes that screw over your team like he does consistently, and he did on Monday Night Football in a game that the Chargers had a chance in, and then things sort of unraveled. It just can't happen. And it's very Chargery of him actually to be that kind of guy, but like he is of the previous regime in sort of that. Yeah, he's got some talent, he can do some good things, but there's always some major problem coming down the line. So either the Harbaugh of it all needs to shake that out of him, and it's a process for him, which potentially might be there, or the Chargers need to go out and get an actual number 1 receiver, which is probably the more likely.
Yeah.
When you have Justin Herbert, you got to give Justin Herbert more than the receivers give Justin Herbert. It's sad, honestly.
Yeah, I wrote about that for fanside.com. Like, T. Higgins might be the right piece at the right time for that, because the Bengals don't want to pay him. He's kind of like a 1A wide receiver, and we have a number 1 wide receiver in your guy Drake London. And so again, like you bring up a good point, like you're dealing with the consequences of the previous regime. I mean, obviously Harbaugh is so much better than Brandon Staley, and Raheem Morris is so much better than Arthur Smith. But my God, we do not have a pass rush. I don't know what Arnold Ebiketie does. I don't know what he does, and Matthew Judon has sleeves, and Grady Jarrett is Grady Jarrett's really good, but that shouldn't be his primary responsibility to sack people.
Yeah. And I relate to that, not from the Chargers perspective, because the Chargers actually have a pass rush, and it's lovely. Tuli Tuipulotu out there being the dude. It's great to see from a USC fan perspective. But USC actual team can't buy a sack, so I'm definitely familiar with that on the college side, and it is so frustrating watching a defense that can't get to the quarterback. It just makes everything so much harder, and it's one of the big reasons why I come into this game with some feeling that like the Chargers can come away and win this game. The circumstances are we'll talk about this more later, but the circumstances are a little bit tough. But if you're not getting to Justin Herbert or any quarterback that you play, you're just not going to have a good time.
No, it's like we do pretty much everything else pretty well. I mean, the offensive line's a little banged up. We're getting Drew Dalman back, hopefully at center. that would make things a lot better. If we can really run the football, that would be helpful. But like, is the Chargers outside of like receiving core, everything else pretty much good, or is there like another area where it's like, I don't know?
Well, I mean, the offensive line is playing outstanding. They're getting great production from key guys up in the front seven. Khalil Mack is having a big season. They're getting good DB play. And the corners are whatever, but the safeties are quite good. I think the biggest issue for the Chargers right now, aside from the wide receivers of it all, is just the wear and tear of a season. You know, J.K. Dobbins picked up an injury against the Ravens. He's not going to play against the Falcons. At least that seems to be the case. An MCL sprain and is week to week, which MCL sprains are such weird injuries, especially for a running back. But he's not the only guy out there who's been injured. You know, they bring in Eli Apple. They sign him to come in, and he immediately picks up a hamstring injury. Denzel Perriman has been dealing with a groin. Last I had seen, which it's still pretty early in the week to know, he's not practicing. So will he be available against the Falcons? Cam Hart at corner had a concussion this past week, also not practicing. Not a great sign for a guy coming off a concussion that he's not able to practice immediately the week after, but you never know with that. So, you know, there's some key injuries that are limiting the Chargers in some areas where you need Denzel Perriman when you're playing the Ravens and you need a run stopper. The plus side here is that, you know, the Falcons are like, Bijan Robinson is not Derrick Henry, but that's still a problem if you don't have Perriman against a running back like Bijan Robinson. So it's just the individual for a team like the Chargers, who are playing well, but always on the verge of like being on the wrong side of it. Losing someone like J.K. Dobbins, losing someone like Denzel Perriman, individual presence could be the difference between winning and losing, especially on the road.
For sure. Like, I feel like the vibes are better now that the Falcons have had a bye week. That we needed that in the worst way possible. I guess I'll ask this before we move on to our next topic here. Does the 10 a.m. local start time have an effect here? And across the country, that's one thing, but then obviously the Chargers are playing on a short week and Atlanta's had a bye coming off 2 losses. Is that a concern for you potentially going into the Benz?
It has to be. And that's one of these things you can get over, but short week, Falcons coming off a bye, your star running back just picked up an injury, you're playing at 10 a.m. Pacific. These things all collectively come together. That just the travel alone would always put you at a slight disadvantage. Collectively come together, and it ramps up the difficulty against a good team that even though the Falcons have lost these games recently, like, this is still a team that has a lot of really good pieces to them, and you know, should come in and at least go toe to toe with this Chargers team, if not outclass them at times in some areas.
I bet the Harbaughs are having the entire Chargers team over Thanksgiving, because I don't think they went back to LA. I think they just stayed out. I was thinking about that. I'm like, that would have been just ridiculous. But this is the NFL, and we live in an all-coast conference in the Big Ten that hits all 4 time zones.
Yeah.
Because Nebraska, the western third of Nebraska, is in Mountain Time, which just completely blew my mind when I found that out.
Yeah, good old time zones.
Good old time zones. And we may have to go to some other time zones here with some Around the Perimeter, which is the segment here that we do to talk about teams outside of the teams that we follow. And I think this is always great because we cover the NFL nationally for like our job and everything like that. So if there's a couple of teams out there that you have something you want to say or talk about, freeform, anybody else you want to talk about besides Falcons and Chargers right now?
I love the Lions. The Lions are so much fun. They're such a great story because of the history. We've all known what the Lions were in the past, and to see them really spread their wings this season, or even last season, and feel like they are just an absolute buzzsaw that's cutting their way through the NFL. On a personal level, like seeing Amon-Ra St. Brown be as successful as he's being is so great, but also like Jared Goff having this renaissance, and the Lions defense, despite losing Aiden Hutchinson, still going out there and playing as well as they are. Like, that's just such a fun team, so easy to root for. I really want to see them succeed. Like, they're the team that I am rooting for to go on and do something special. On the other side of things, I think that the Chiefs are such an interesting case because they're the Chiefs. They just know how to win. That's just what they are. They actually remind me a lot of Jim Harbaugh's Michigan from last year, where it's like nothing they're doing is impressive, and yet they just find the way to win. And you keep waiting for the shoe to drop, and you keep waiting for, like, this is going to catch up to you. And it sort of has to the Chiefs, but you still feel like they're capable of squeaking out any win. Even if you have to squeak out a win over the Panthers, like, you're going to squeak out a win over the Panthers in the way that you're going to squeak out a win over, whoever you play every week in the playoffs. So I don't bet against the Chiefs. I don't bet against Andy Reid. I don't bet against Patrick Mahomes. But I keep waiting for them to crumble, and they aren't. And I don't know what to make of it. So yeah, those are my two intriguing around the NFL things wonderful that float around in my head.
Yes, I actually had the Lions beating the Chiefs in the Super Bowl at the start of the year, so I feel pretty good about that. I've ventured to guess that the Lions lose both their coordinators to jobs. I figured that, like, Ben Johnson's going to be stupid and go take the Bears job. Which why would you go to? I mean, you see what they're doing to Caleb with the House and McCaskies. That place doesn't know what it's doing.
Yeah.
And then Aaron Glenn, he might be the guy to go to the Saints. I mean, he came with Dan Campbell there. He could be a good coach for the. I think the Jets should look pretty hard at him because he started there and played for them. Like, they need a guy that's like going to be like alpha male, leader of men. That kind of, you got to get away from the whole Adam Gase, whatever, Robert Saleh, whatever the Jets are doing. Get rid of Aaron Rodgers. Just start again. Just rebrand. Be the New York Titans. We already have the Titans. So Tennessee Oilers. Let's do it again. So I guess my stuff is a little bit more on the negative. I don't know what the Giants are doing. I don't know what the Giants are doing at all.
They don't know what they're doing.
No, they don't. The Daniel Jones breakup was worse than the Eli Manning getting benched. They got to get rid of Brian Daboll. They got to get rid of Joe Shane. They got to start again. Probably get rid of the Tish Maris too, but they won't do that. I put Mike Vrabel as the guy to potentially take over at head coach and then draft, like, I don't know, Jalen Milroe. But even then, I feel like, is that really going to fix everything? I don't think so.
You are cursing Jalen Milroe to a miserable existence for 3 years of his career before he inevitably flames out, because this is what the Giants do to quarterbacks. So,
like, do you go Shador? Do you go Beck? I mean, I don't even know. Like, yours might come back. Who knows?
My personal opinion is that with some of these teams, like, they need to stop chasing quarterbacks, because you just keep ruining quarterbacks because you don't know what to do with them. Figure your shit out and then go chase your quarterback. I think, I don't know that it's a fair thing, because Kevin O'Connell is just really freaking good at his job. But like, the Sam Darnold of it all is such a great example of how, these terrible teams go in and ruin quarterbacks, and then we sort of blame the quarterbacks for being bad when they are products of their environment. And then you take them out of that environment, and a lot of them get ruined for good. But sometimes you get a guy like Sam Darnold who lands somewhere where they know what they're doing and can put him in a position to succeed. And, he's not a franchise quarterback, but he's a perfectly playable, suitable, he can win football games if you give him that opportunity. The Giants and the Jets and some of these teams out there, they're never going to have a successful quarterback because everything about their franchise is wrong.
Yeah.
So that's not sorry to go on a rant.
I mean, like most people aren't Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow that are going to succeed anywhere. I mean, heck, most people aren't even Kirk Cousins, but they just figured out and survive anyway. Like Jalen Hurts is that. Like a lot of people are Sam Darnold, where it's like, oh, he can actually play. He just went to a terribly run franchise and another terribly run franchise. They finally got his opportunity. Then you wonder. I kind of wonder if JJ McCarthy can play at all. I don't think so. I'm not. I don't see it.
I was skeptical of him from college. So yeah.
And then I guess, I was going to say some stuff about the Bengals. I don't really feel like I need to do that. They don't know what they're doing either. I do say I've been writing this a lot. I don't know if you caught this. They march to the beat of their own drum, but they don't have a drumstick. That's the Bengals.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah, I know. They think they're a flute, but they're actually a drum. They're not. But to put a bow on it, like positive, I think the Cardinals, they have a great head coach and Jonathan Gannon and Monty Austinford. They seem to be working seamlessly. You don't see Kyler Murray like wanting to leave or play video games all day. Team's in a really good spot. They might make the playoffs, but like you saw the vibes that you needed to last year, and I think it's going to work out for them.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really awesome that we're seeing like Kyler Murray look like he is having fun again and knowing what he's doing. And again, it's the importance of putting players in an environment where they can succeed. It makes all the difference. And yeah, I don't think the Cardinals are like a runaway train at this point or anything like that, but that they're a perfect example of a team. I think them and the Seahawks over the past few years are a perfect example of a team where just having some steadiness can turn a quarterback, could settle a quarterback in and create opportunities to win football games.
It's amazing, like how great life can be when you're not surrounded by a chaotic mess. It's great.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's really going to be the case here with Around the Ball, because we know what our teams are about. They're about the ball. They're about I would say that if there's like the four horsemen of the apocalypse of just like being snake bitten to hell, it's like the Falcons, the Chargers, the Bills, and the Vikings. They all have a seat at the same table.
Yes. Snake bitten is the perfect example. There's just always something, man.
And then the Bengals are over there in like the little tykes, little kitty seat. They're wanting to be at the table. And then the Dolphins are like, we're missing you at our table.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the time of the segment where we preview the games that are going to happen. About the ball was a very Dan Quinn thing he used to say, got to be about the ball. I mean, you're Pete Carroll, you know exactly all about that.
It is all about the ball. And honestly, that's one of the things that like I think have my vibes in a positive degree with the Chargers is that like I am a product of the Pete Carroll philosophy. And his philosophy was always, take care of the football and win the turnover battle, and you'll pretty much have a chance in every game that you play. And the Chargers are protecting the football so well this year that they're the best in the league in turnovers lost this year, only 5 on the season. I mean, Justin Herbert is not throwing interceptions this year. He's only got 3. Heading towards a career low if he keeps this up. And that's one of the things that I think that you go into this game if you're the Chargers, and even though you don't have J.K. Dobbins or likely don't, so your run game is going to be slightly hindered, and that's a bummer going into any game, because the other key is run the ball, don't turn the ball over, all of those things. The plus side, I think, for the Chargers is that the Falcons have looked very vulnerable against the pass recently. And when you have Justin Herbert and you're going up against a team that is getting lit up, that isn't getting pressure on a quarterback, I think you don't, if ever there was a time to lean on Herbert more in a game now, because you have to, this would be it. Obviously, this all gets undone if the receivers don't show up. But I don't know that I can control that. I don't know that the Chargers can control that. So you just got to sort of cross your fingers and look at it and think like, this is the game that Justin Herbert has to come out and win it. The reason the Chargers have been winning games is because they're a more balanced team. They're asking less of Herbert. They're running the ball well. The offensive line is playing well. Now it's a little bit of, okay, Justin, go out and win the game.
Yes. That's kind of where I was sitting there thinking, like, okay, ball control, don't turn the ball over. That's what both teams are probably going to try to do here,
Yeah.
because there are limitations here. Falcons can't really get after the passer, and then the Chargers have they don't have the receiving core that they need right now. So, like, I would say, like, if Atlanta is going to win the game, they need to get out to a big lead and basically force Justin Herbert to play from behind and elevate these receivers. The one thing that I've noticed with most Falcons victories is they kind of, if it's not a great receiving core, they do a pretty good job of limiting it. The Broncos is different because Sean Payton knows this roster inside and out, and we had our lunch and we got stuffed into a locker. That's basically what happened versus the Broncos. But it's like I'm kind of right there with you. Like, this is, if the Chargers are going to win, it's going to be because of Herbert.
Yeah, and if the Chargers don't win, it's very much going to be because of whatever Herbert's doing gets undone by like the Quentin Johnston of it all. But at the same time, like I'm very curious about what the Falcons offense can do. I don't watch enough of like a full Falcons game to really get a full impression. But I feel like every time I'm sort of watching what the Falcons are doing, I'm like, they have so many good pieces offensively. They should be so explosive and like they should be an offensive buzzsaw, and it doesn't feel like they are. And I don't know if you can like shed light on why that is, or if my perception of it is just incorrect. Like,
It comes in waves. I would say the biggest thing is like the offensive line has not been healthy. That's entering this season, I would just say it was probably a top 10 offensive line in football. Drew Dahlman, the center, going out, who I've interviewed on this very program, Stanford legend. He was great, but obviously he was taking a big step forward this year, and having him go down that puts a lot more pressure on Chris Lindstrom, on Matthew Bergeron as a second-year pro. Jake Matthews is as steady as they come at left tackle. Unfortunately, I feel like people gang up on Caleb McGarry. They put like a bunch of like overload the pass rush. Like we put the Steelers. It's like TJ Watt is like, I'm going to line up over here and I'm going to mess you up. And it's just like, this guy's got no chance to succeed. When McGarry's playing well, the Falcons can win. When he's not playing well, it's going to be a challenge. But you are right there. There's a lot of weapons here. I think it's also rookie play caller, a whole bunch of new here. It's not as consistent as it should be. I kind of feel that next year's the year that like Atlanta, if they're going to make a Super Bowl run, that's when they would do it. Right now, it's kind of more like make the playoffs and see what happens. But they got to make a few more tweaks on defense. Maybe a new coordinator, because Jimmy Lake's awful. He is so bad. He's so bad. But you are right though. There are the pieces there all along the offense for the Falcons. This should be one of the best offenses in football, but it isn't always that.
Yeah. So are you worried about the Tuli Tuipulotu of it all, getting after Kirk Cousins, taking advantage of an offensive line that's a little beat up?
Depends. It's like if we could run the football, if Perriman's like out and we got the Bijan and Tyler Algier combo and we can run block, we can maybe be able to offset that. But if Cousins has to sit back there, he's going to get hit. Like if he's being asked to throw like every down, he will take a sack. He'll probably get sacked 4 times, maybe fumble 1. That's what if 30-something guys. Yeah. That's what happens when you've lived longer than we were supposed to in biblical times.
Yes.
But I think we're probably split here. I'm going to take the Falcons. I figured you're probably going to take the Chargers in this one, and probably going to be a close game within about 10 points either way.
Yeah, I like the Chargers in everything except for circumstances. I'm so wary of the things we talked about earlier: the travel, short rest, the 10 a.m. Pacific start. Those give me a lot of nerves. But I think you're right. I think this is going to be a close game. I don't think anybody's going to run away with this, and I think it's probably going to come down to, 1 or 2 plays on either side that determine it's either going to be a Quentin Johnson drop, or a Justin Herbert miracle play, or Bijan Robinson breaking one. Something like that. One penalty going the wrong way. Fine margins.
We do have another crossover. That'd be Younghoe Koo, who was not good for the Chargers, but's been great for the Falcons up until recently. Kind of concerned about him. He missed a lot of kicks against the Saints, and that's why we lost that game.
That's not ideal.
that's why we won the first time against them. But moving on, we are no longer going to be about the ball. We're going to do my favorite segment on here, my second favorite. We're going to finish with the favorite one at the end. We're going to do blow the whistle or blow the whistle. You've been on false start with me several times. This is our equivalent of do Haas or do Haas. So either way, you're going to answer the same question. If you agree, you blow the train whistle, which is a good thing. That's like the touchdown with Atlanta being a train city, but the public transit's like cross now because it doesn't make sense. And if you don't agree, it's a ref whistle, like blow the whistle. I can't extend because there's a wall right here. So, Alicia, blow the whistle or blow the whistle? Well, both of these teams won a playoff game.
Here's how I'm going to explain it. During the Marty Schottenheimer and at least the beginning of the Norv Turner era, I always felt like the Chargers were like one piece or one play away from being a playoff contender. And I was always miserable because they just never were. And the years of Anthony Lynn and Brandon Staley have stripped away all of my hope about the Chargers in the postseason. So I feel the need to quote the great Frankie Dart from Community, which is, I never hope. Hope is pouting in advance. Hope is faith's richier, bitchier sister. Hope is the deformed, attic-bound, incest monster offspring of entitlement and fear. My life results tripled the year I gave up hope and every game on my phone that had anything to do with farming. So blow the whistle because the Chargers ain't winning a playoff game. I think that the Falcons, because of the sort of the high caliber weapons that the Falcons have, you could always just have a ridiculous game from a Bijan or a Drake London or even Kirk Cousins. We've seen have big games in the postseason. I think there is a chance that they win a playoff game depending on who they get matched up with. The Chargers are not going to win the division, so they're going to be in a wild card game, and I just don't. I'm not going there. I don't hope. I'll just sit back and watch.
I guess I'll go back to Pandora's box. The one thing that is in there, that's hope, and I'm going to blow the whistle. Yeah, I'm going to be positive. The Falcons, because they're probably going to win the division. That's really the only way in. If the Buccaneers catch them, they don't deserve to be in. You'd be like the 4 seed, so you'd play like the Vikings or Packers or somebody else. And you're evenly matched in some capacities. Like, you're not playing the Eagles initially. You're not playing the Lions right away. You should be okay. So, like you said, there's enough offensive firepower where like Atlanta could do it. From the Chargers' perspective, they're going to have to be road warriors because they're not going to beat the Chiefs. I kind of feel right now with what I've seen, Denver and LA are both looking like playoff teams in the AFC. I kind of feel that there's something about them. Like, I feel like it's only going to be the Bills in the East. It's only going to be the Texans in the South. And then, you've got the Steelers and Ravens, and that basically leaves the Chargers and Broncos right there. Pretty clean break. Maybe there's a few other teams in the mix right there. But if we're going to start putting belief in like the Dolphins or the Colts, like, get out of here. No. That's
certainly more belief on my end with the Dolphins than the Colts. But even the Dolphins are, as you said, snake bitten. Who the hell knows? They'll be the best offense you've ever seen in your life for 3 weeks, and then just go to die in December because it's cold.
They haven't won a playoff game since the Hanging Chads of 2000. Since the Lions won, they had like the longest active playoff drought streak. But I would say, though, the reason I would give the Chargers an advantage here is it's Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh's never had an awkward moment in his life. Neither him or Pat McAfee had ever had an awkward moment in their entire life. And they refused to accept it for the moment. So, like, when he was with the Niners and even with Michigan, it was just like they never felt like the stage was too big. Where like the Chargers could be like the 6th seed. You could beat Houston. Like, that's not that hard. You could beat Buffalo. Like, I don't know if you could beat the well, because it's the Brother Bowl, maybe you could get Baltimore. I don't know if you beat the Chiefs, but like they're going to get the bye. So I think that like I trust them a little bit more than I do Denver in that situation. But I want to be positive. I want to spread festive cheer because we are in the holidays here, and bolt up, I guess.
Hey, I did look it up. I couldn't remember the last time the Chargers won a playoff game. And you know what? If Anthony Lynn and Mike McCoy could both win playoff games with the Chargers, then anything is possible, I suppose.
Falcons' last playoff win was in 2017. We beat the Rams, and then we lost the Eagles on 4th and Sark. That was another mutual, right?
Yes, good old Sark. Steve Sarkisian.
Loki, if Texas doesn't beat A&M, it's going to be pretty hard. I think it's going to be hard for them to make the playoff. I think it's going to be challenging.
I honestly don't know what's going on with the SEC is I was putting together like an SEC playoff scenarios or whatever. Yeah. And I just like my head exploded. There's too much. I don't know. I don't know with any of these teams.
The only thing I know for certain is if Georgia beats Georgia Tech, they're in no matter what happens in Atlanta. And if Tennessee beats Vanderbilt, they're in no matter what happens. That's it. And then and then the Big Ten, it's pretty straightforward. I was trying to think about like the chances of Indiana going to Indianapolis. It's like less than 1% because
they need to win, and then they need Penn State to lose and Ohio State to lose. Mm-hmm. But Penn State's playing Purdue, if I remember correctly.
Penn State's playing Maryland, who's just as bad.
Maryland is terrible. Well, I mean, USC lost to them, which is one of the big reasons why I'm so pissed off at USC, because Maryland is terrible.
I can't believe Mike Locksley still has a job. Come work in Athens. It's going to be the OC over Boba, please, for God. I do love this segment. We're going to go with our penultimate segment here. We're going to go with some left of the upright. I love doing this. This is my ability to troll the Vikings. Maybe when I get Adam Patrick on here next week, I'll see what he thinks. He'll probably just go off and not come back. But like this is like left of the dial. So one of the reasons that I was most excited about bringing you on the show is because we have very similar perspectives in college football and very similar perspectives in the NFL with the teams we root for and support. So we both support like college football blue bloods, like two of the 15 best programs of all time. I feel probably two of the top 10, just given what USC and Georgia are historically. And we also cheer for NFL teams, one of 12 that don't have a Super Bowl ring. So just the dichotomy of living that lifestyle. I guess you brought up before, like it all evens out in the end. Like whatever's good is bad, and like you can't have all good at one time.
That is exactly, I call it transference, and it is an unproven fact, but it is very much a fact in my life that sports karma evens out. So for every good team that you have, there will always be one that's terrible, and they might change their roles at times. But in the end, if the Chargers go on and win a Super Bowl, then that means that like USC will have their worst season ever, or Liverpool will have their worst season ever, or the Clippers will somehow find a way to be worse than they already are. Like that's just how it works for sports. So my thoughts on this are that I can live with this. I can live with the concept of, like I said, I've given up hope. So like following the Chargers is a much easier thing for me because I'm angry at USC all the time when they underachieve. Or with the Chargers, I'm just like, well, let's see what they can do. Like I'm pleasantly surprised if they're 7-4 and winning games every once in a while. So it sort of works out. My fear is always, well, for instance, like Liverpool, I have the game on to the side here. Liverpool just scored on Real Madrid. Liverpool's having an amazing season. The Chargers are having a pretty decent season. Looks like they might be playoff bound, all that kind of stuff. Turn around. What is USC? USC is 6-5, scraping to a bowl eligibility and looking like a team that wants to torture me every Saturday. This is how life works. So, if the Chargers go on to do something well, I just need to gear up and prepare for pain somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm in a very weird spot with this because like all 5 of my teams are kind of like good to okay. Like there's no, so like unfortunately, like
You
Georgia,
need a truly terrible team to follow. Is what I'm hearing.
Atlanta United was really bad for a while. They're pretty good now. They beat Messi. They lost to like I think Orlando City and like MLS Cup stuff like that. Hawks like they're kind of on the downtick a little bit. They're still trying to figure out with Trae Young and Quinn Snyder and I don't know. They bring DeJounte Murray in, didn't work. So they've got Dyson Daniels. We're trying to figure that out. I don't really know what's going on. Georgia basketball is starting to come up. Georgia baseball is good, but the Falcons are starting to turn up, whereas I feel like the Braves are starting to downtick just a bit. I will say that with Blake Snell going to the Dodgers, that means Fried might come back because, like, what's he going to do? Go play for the Red Sox? Are you kidding me? He's not going to Dodgers now. Is basically what that means.
I suppose, yeah. I could see how a Braves fan might hear Blake Snell to the Dodgers and think, yeah, this is not the worst thing that's ever happened. Meanwhile, me, an Angels fan, just is very, very not enjoying the all caps joy text messages from every Dodgers fan that I know.
I'm not thrilled with the fact that Freddie Freeman's going to go into the Hall of Fame with a blank cap. That really bothers me. He's born like in like the one of the days in between you and I. So it's like he's our peer, and it's just like him and Andrew Luck. One of them still playing. One of them is still learning. Oh man, but yeah, but somebody you're right though. Somebody in my sphere is going to go down pretty hard. It's not going to be Georgia. I think the infrastructure is just too good at this point. I don't know. But you are right though. It does happen. Like you can look at every metroplex in the country. There's always like one team that's really good, one that's kind of mid, and one that's just absolute crap. And it's the same thing. Like across the board, you can pretty much do that with everybody.
I was just thinking about the teams in the Georgia sort of Atlanta area, and I think the Braves are going to be like the Braves had the catastrophic injury stuff. They were just unlucky last season. I think they're going to be much better this season. Maybe not like ever win a World Series ever again because the Dodgers are just going to win every World Series for the next 10 years. But I don't think the Braves are going to be bad. The Falcons are putting together. There's just a lot to like about the Falcons. I don't think they're going to be bad. I'm with you, Georgia's infrastructure, Kirby Smart, all of that kind of stuff. Even if they're not winning national titles, they're still not going to be bad. So
it's probably the Hawks.
It's probably the Hawks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one.
He goes, Trae Young's like, trade me to San Antonio. And like, let's just blow up the franchise at this point. And at that point, they got to bring an NHL expansion team back here, and then they'll play out in like South Forsyth, and we'll be the Thrashers 2.0, and we'll be terrible because that's an expansion team. So maybe that's what it is. But
that's the way to go.
Yeah. So any other thoughts, just kind of college football to NFL? And I talk about with Cody too, when he's on the program too. It's like the change of vibes, like, we do both well, but then it's a completely different mindset. It's two different sports, really. I think that you've said that before. It's completely different.
Yeah, NFL and college football, they feel miles apart, and I find it hard to like explain exactly how that is. It's just like you're watching a college football game when you're watching an NFL game. Everything's different.
Well, it's like I went to Georgia, you went to USC, so I can go to like anybody who's playing in the red and black. I'm like, oh, I hated Florida too. We had similar experiences. I'm sure it's the same thing with like anybody who's with the Trojan family, like how they feel about Notre Dame. Like they know this. Whereas like there have been Falcons players, like you have to tell them like, no, you're supposed to hate the Saints, and like the Chargers is like you need to hate the Raiders and Broncos, and that has to be brought in there. But I will say though, from an NFL perspective, one thing that's really cool is like, anybody can beat anybody on any given Sunday.
Any week.
Like the best team in the NFL right now is like what? The Lions, and the worst team is like the Jaguars. Like if the Jaguars went to Ford Field, the point spread's like Lions -17, which is nothing in college football. That's clean old fashioned hate this weekend, basically.
Yeah. No, but you're right. I mean, like just take. I mean, I know that the Chiefs have been playing with fire for weeks now, but like think about where the Panthers were when they benched Bryce Young, and then they come around and like Bryce Young is playing quarterback for them again, and they're very very nearly beating the Chargers. I mean the Chiefs. Like that's it's wild, and I think what's fun, what I find fun about college football is there's a little bit of that too, to a lesser degree, obviously, because the gaps are a little bit bigger. But like you get unexpected results all the time in college football, but they're truly shocking and truly like upsets. Where in the NFL you get like shocking results, but no one's rushing the field and pulling down the goalposts.
No, I will say though, the coaching is better in the NFL. Like
Yeah,
like Dave Canales was really good. I knew he was going to work, even if the Panthers, like with the David Tepper develop, like he's pretty good. He made Baker Mayfield look really good, and Baker Mayfield's still pretty good. But
yeah,
I was not ready to cross off Bryce Young just yet because Dave Canales kind of knows what he's doing. Whereas like there's some coaches in college football like Gus Malzahn, let's go boys, let's hurry up and run. He's just nailing, and he's about to get fired.
yeah.
He's not good. You know what? We've been left of the upright. We've been left of the upright plenty. I'm slurring my words right now because it's Buhler off day, and who cares? But we usually do dudes remembering dudes or guys remembering birds or whatever. But because this is a gender inclusive podcast, we're doing people remembering people. It was going to be people remembering players, but like people remembering people's players.
I like people remembering people.
This is the best one. This is the best segment. Everyone loves this. They love it so much. We're going to number 6 people here, some Falcons, some Chargers, some USC people, just because we need to go. I'm going to start. I'm going to remember one of my all-time favorite players. I've had the pleasure of interviewing him before. Chargers legend, LaDainian Tomlinson. It's very interesting with Falcons fans because they traded the 5th pick to get the 1 pick to get Vic, and the Chargers got LaDainian Tomlinson and Drew Brees. So, again, LaDainian Tomlinson was like after Marshall Faulk, like that next kind of running back where he could do. LaShawn McCoy was that too. Fantasy Darling could do everything. He would like the flip of the end zone when he would score. Just one of my favorite players to watch, you know, when he was playing in his prime, back when I still tolerated Chris Berman. I used to watch the highlights with him talking before. LaDainian Tomlinson, it's still crazy that he was playing at like TCU in 2000, like very, very early Gary Patterson. They were in the WAC at that point. They weren't even G5. They were, and he still went number 5 overall. He was that good.
Yeah, I think he's my favorite NFL player of all time. He is the main reason that I became a Chargers fan, because being from Los Angeles, you're kind of unaffiliated, at least at the time that I was growing up. You could always be a Raiders fan, but they weren't. They were just the Raiders, whatever. You'd always be a Rams fan, but a lot of LA Rams fans were real bitter at that time about the move. So whatever. So I got to like choose an NFL team just based on vibes, and LT's vibes were just top notch. So good. Just so much fun. You turn on a game and you just watch him. He just had that nose for the goal line. He had like this like quiet swagger to him that there was not like flamboyance, but the way that he would just run the ball spoke volumes about like just everything with him. He's so good. He's so good.
One of the best to ever do it.
Yes.
Absolute legend. And speaking of absolute legends, we're going to remember Tony Gonzalez of the Atlanta Falcons and Chiefs. I remembered him I had Sterling Holmes on the show when it was Falcons Chiefs for our crossover here. Tony Gonzalez was so critical in helping Matt Ryan develop. We had Roddy White, and he was like the perfect safety valve to help Roddy White finish out his prime, and then allowed Julio Jones to kind of take over. I think Tony Gonzalez is like the only weapon who Matt Ryan played with who who was better. Matt Ryan's going to get in the Hall of Fame because every person he played with on offense, he threw the ball to, was worse after playing with Matt Ryan. But Tony Gonzalez is already that good, so he's kind of he's in his own separate category. Tony G. people in the Chiefs kingdom are bitter. Like, okay, we got Kelsey, Tony G left under very weird circumstances. Like, just shut up. He's a legend for both teams. Celebrate the man. He's fantastic.
Yeah. So I think it's funny, being a Chargers fan, I don't remember Tony Gonzalez in the Chiefs jersey. Like, you'd think I'd have bad memories of him, but I don't. I just don't. He wasn't the one I hated. As a Chargers fan, I hated the Patriots and Colts more than any of the division rivals. But I am somebody who I love the tight end position, and I love anybody who plays that position the way that Tony Gonzalez did. And so I think it was like when I was starting to be more discerning about football and the way that that positions are played, was closer to when he was with the Falcons. And I just like my appreciation for that all around stellarness, not just catching the ball, but being a blocker, being somebody who enables everything else about the offense. Great tight ends are, in my view, so prone to being underrated, given like you said, like having Tony Gonzalez makes Matt Ryan, makes it life easier for him, makes everything about that offense turnover easier. So yeah, Tony Gonzalez, awesome dude.
Yes. He got a Pro Bowl his last year there. I think the Falcons were 4-12. They were terrible in 2013. He's still in great shape. He probably could still kind of sort of play right now. He could have played further, but obviously he had to go be dad and do dad things. So like, I understand you got to go. There's a time and place for everything like that. And the guy who was already dad when he was playing, Philip Rivers.
Old Philip.
There's never going to be another player like Philip Rivers ever. Like, just a true one of one.
The crazy thing about Philip, like, there's like this dichotomy with Philip Rivers. He's the father. Like, he is the father. He's got 1 million kids. He's like daddy, quarterback, whatever. But he's also like the most jawing talk shit on the field, like not be I don't want to call him immature because it didn't feel like immaturity, just like this like weird aggro that he would do on the field. Such a weird back and forth in terms of who that man was, but wonderful quarterback in his own right.
I believe he's from Decatur, Alabama, so like Northern Alabama by Huntsville and everything like that. And where I'm from, he's a jar, Jawer. So he's a jar. He's a jar.
Okay, that's perfect.
A jar, if you will. And so he goes and plays at NC State. NC State wasn't really good. He was fantastic as a sophomore. Probably we were growing up. It's like, who's that guy? And NC State had like a crazy season. Like, they were ranked for the first time ever with him under Chuck Amato. And I always felt bad that like the Mannings of it all, like, Eli doesn't want to play here and whatever. And Philip Rivers is like, oh, I'm going to go to the Giants. No, we're going to trade you to the Chargers. Oh, they've already got Drew Brees. Okay. I always kind of felt that like he overcame adversity better than most other people would. There's a few other quarterbacks out there. Like, I think Kirk Cousins has done a really good job of that as well. I would say, trying to think who else is in that category, but like, I can't really think off the top of my head, but like Philip Rivers he just won anyway. His final year with the Colts, he won and figured it all out. Eventually I think he's going to get into broadcasting and like be in the booth, like just the replacement Dan Fouts.
I could see it.
He won't grow like the beard though. What if he did? What if he just goes sit there like, I'm retired, I've got a David Letterman beard, let's go.
I can see it.
Yeah.
I just had a vision of Philip Rivers with a beard. You know what? I think it works.
He goes in there with a bolero necktie and like a Stetson. He doesn't care. He's just out there doing Philip Rivers stuff.
That's the one thing I can tell you. Like, Philip Rivers does not care. He doesn't give a shit.
No, Philip Rivers marches to the beat of his own drum, and it's a clapper. Yes. It's a thing that does like both at the same time. That's Philip Rivers. another ridiculously good human being, Warwick Dunn. Yes, he's been mentioned on the program a handful of times. Obviously, Buccaneers, Falcons legend, Ring of Honor guy, minority owner of the Falcons, the only Falcons winner of the Walter Payton Award. He only had 3 Pro Bowls, 10,000 rushing yards. Put him in Canton. It's stupid. Why is he not there? I don't understand.
I mean, it's one of those stupid things where we like measure Hall of Fame by these like metrics that some guys have, like the statistical metrics, and some guys like I get that he's not the most prolific running back of that era, but he was so consistently good. And on top of, Walter Payton Man of the Year, like give him that nod. The fact that he did it in 2 different places, one of the things that I think is a real marker of a great player, because sometimes you are made from the system that you are. If you can be a successful running back in one place and then go another place and be just as successful, if not more, like that's all you. That's you proving it. So yeah, work done. Just a stellar guy, and I think that one of the reasons why I have an affinity for Warwick Dunn is that, especially with the Falcons, is my prime playing Madden years were probably 2004 to 2006.
Yeah.
And the 2004 to 2006 Madden games also coincided with Mike Vick Madden games. So of course you'd use the Falcons because, you want Michael Vick, but like my memory of playing with the Falcons is also like, damn, like, yes, I got the running back. I got work done. I'm good to go. Like, let's just run it down everybody's throats. So there's a video game tie in there as well.
Yes, that's why Ian McMillan's a fan of this team. He been a creative player and he ended up on the Falcons, and that's why he's the biggest Falcons fan from Canada.
There you go.
But yeah, like people always say like the stats were down with Atlanta. I'm like, you do realize Michael Vick ran the ball a bunch. You do realize TJ Duckett was in the backfield. And so there's just not a lot of balls to go around. It was a fun time. And Jim Mora Jr. yeah. Should have kept Dan Reeves, but that's okay. Moving on to our second to last person here, the only real crossover we can think of with the Chargers, that would be Michael the Burner Turner. Chargers back up to LaDainian Tomlinson there, in the NIU legend there with the Northern Illinois Huskies, and then had about 5 really good years with the Falcons, 3 really outstanding years. The guy had tree trunks for legs, and he just kept going. He was a big boy.
That is the only way to describe that man. He's just all legs. Like it just, I'm pretty sure like I could fit inside one of his thighs. It just, here's what I love about Michael Turner. I loved Michael Turner. I've already said like LaDainian Tomlinson, favorite NFL player of all time, but I love a second string running back in the sense that I love when you have a great first stringer, but you can spell him and take him out and get really good production and feel like you're not losing a ton when you have a second running back. And that was Michael Turner for the Chargers. Like it was an embarrassment of riches to be able to take LT off the field and still have him be available. What I was, despite my sadness that he didn't stay with the Chargers, I was so happy for him when he went to the Falcons and got to be the guy, like just the number one guy. It's just always when you've liked a guy who's a backup and you see them go on to be successful when they get their shot, like it's just so much fun. So I love a Michael Turner, and I'm so happy for him that he was with the Falcons.
Yes, my favorite thing about him, well, besides the fact that like he's the only man whose like thighs are bigger than his waist. That was just how he was. That's not mathematically possible, but it was. That was what he was doing. But one of the things that was very interesting about him I feel like he was being underutilized with the Chargers because you had LaDainian Tomlinson. We kind of have that now with Bijan Robinson as LaDainian Tomlinson and Tyler Algier as the Michael the Burner Turner equivalent here in Atlanta. But when he came to the Falcons in 08, what people forget is like the 07 Falcons were the worst. That was the worst team I've ever rooted for in this fan. That was the Bobby Petrino year. Mike Vick goes to prison. We've got Joey Harrington and Byron Leftwich playing quarterback. It was terrible. The only redeeming thing about that season was Roddy White figuring it out because of Joe Horn. That's it. Everything else about that season, I completely blocked out of memory. I have no memories of that. I mean, I think I was a senior in high school at that point. Like, I'm not remembering any of this. But Turner's like, you know what? I'm going to bet on myself. This team sucks, and I'm going to come play here. And then he finished like top 3 in MVP voting. Like year 1, the Falcons go to the playoffs and lose to the Kurt Warner Cardinals. And because Keith Brooking couldn't move fast enough, and they let him go. Yeah, that's my clean old-fashioned hate dig here. And we're going to move on to the one guy that's not a Charger, but he's a Falcon, and more importantly, he's a Trojan. That would be Falcons and USC Trojans left tackle Sam Baker. Yes, Sam Baker. I'll let you take the floor. Let's go.
Sam Baker, one of my favorite Trojans ever. As an offensive lineman at USC, he was just everything. He was so freaking good. He's just one of those offensive linemen that stepped right in and was just never anything worse than perfect. He was the thing that I think the thing that's underrated about the Pete Carroll era is, everyone talks about Pete Carroll's defenses and people talk about the high flying offenses with the quarterbacks and the running backs and the receivers. But the only reason those things were able to be what they were is because USC's offensive lines in that era were fantastic. And Sam Baker was one of those guys, one of many of those guys who was just on a level that was so reliable. And I appreciate so much more now because USC's offensive lines in the last decade have been not at that level, not even close. So I love Sam Baker. I'm bummed that his NFL career was a little bit more muted than his college career, but injuries are going to injury.
It happens. I remember like watching a replay of the 2005 national championship game versus Texas, and he was a sophomore starting the offensive line. I'm like, oh, hey, Sam Baker. And he was playing pretty well. And I'm sitting there thinking like, he was already a technician by the time he was like 20 years old. He was that good. He comes to the Falcons. He was the second first-round pick. I think Falcons took him like 21 or something like that to protect Matt Ryan. Had a pretty good run there for a couple of years there. Obviously, injuries got the best of him. But I learned after he retired that his father was the giant, lovable man, David Baker from the Pro Football Hall of Fame, who would knock on the door and tell people they're getting into Canton. So, like, to be related to, like, the Santa Claus of football foreverness is amazing.
Yes. And it's so random because, like, there had been talk for forever that, every time the Pac-12 needed a new commissioner, like, USC fans would always say, like, go talk to David Baker. Like he was one of those guys that his name was always coming up. And yeah, it's sort of weird that those connections are there randomly.
I think now what they have to do is, consistent, it's not him. They basically need some giant offensive linemen to come in there. Like Anthony Munoz just does it, or Jonathan Ogden or Joe Thomas, but he's not that big. But like maybe Anthony Munoz and Jonathan Ogden do it because I feel like just big teddy bears.
I agree. I think that's right. The Hall of Fame, you should have a height and a weight minimum. Like your presence should be as big, your physical presence should be as big as the as a Hall of Fame announcement.
You need to be slightly bigger than Howie Long or Michael Strahan to do it.
Yes.
Sam Baker's not going to the Hall of Fame, but as a visitor, but his dad made that place special. And yes, we made this episode special today. This was the Falcons-Chargers preview for the Blog and Dirty podcast. You can follow me, John Buhler, on Twitter or the X at Buhler118. You can follow Alicia de Artola Castillo at Penguin of Troy. Be sure to read all of our work on fansided.com. It was rivalry week. It still is. We had some crazy stuff go up there. I named 69 rivalries for games that don't exist. Yeah, my favorite one was trying to think. My favorite one that I put on there was Cody talked about imaginary menagerie between Kansas and TCU because those animals aren't real.
We have so much good content for Rivalry Week on fansided.com. You guys got to check it out. Everyone's got to check it out. I haven't been able to go through it all. That's yeah, I think your rivalries that don't exist that shouldn't that should haven't gotten to, and the rivalry trophies, the ridiculous rivalry trophies from Cody wrote that one.
Yes, that one's.
Still need to go through that. So yeah, this whole project was awesome.
It was fantastic. Collaborative effort. Alicia, myself, Michael, Cody, Megan, Mel, Chris Landers, Mark Powell. Yeah, definitely go check out Mark Powell's thing about the AI trophy.
The AI trophy.
That is some. Then obviously, Austin Bundy and Justin Carter also contributed as well too.
Yeah.
Am I missing anybody else? I think I got the guy off the top of my head.
I think. Did you say Quinn?
I don't know if Quinn did anything, but Chris Landers.
Oh, did he?
Chris Landers certainly did, but whatever. Quinn does everything, and Quinn likes to use the Goldie Gopher thing in Slack, and I think he thinks it's a beaver. I'm like, no, that was what Anthony Gualiardo put in there back in the day. Yes. So yeah, definitely check out fanside.com, bloganddirty.com. What else are you and Michael talking about on Radio Detroit Radio?
Today, Wednesday, we will be doing our USC Notre Dame preview. That will certainly focus on the game to come, but also I wrote the USC Notre Dame rivalry page that we have for that thing, and I got deep down into the timeline to the point where Michael, who was designing it, was like, okay, Alicia, like you gotta pare some of this down. We can't have it be 50 entries. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with that, and I will be sharing some of my findings on the podcast.
Yeah. Me and Rosemary were watching The Good Place. It's my first time watching it. I don't know if you've watched that show.
Yes. Yeah. Where are you in it?
We're in season 2, so I've seen the big twist there. But
okay, good.
Yeah, it's like Chidi with his giant book of ethics, and Michael's like,
yes,
you completely reinvented yourself on this stage.
Yes, that's exactly.
Yeah, but hopefully you can make better decisions than Chidi. You can watch, like, comment, subscribe to the Blog and Dirty podcast. You can do it to False Start, Reign of Troy, anywhere in the fan-sided network of podcasts. Just do it. Support us. It's great. We like talking. We like writing. We like being seen and heard, and more than just scribbling things on the keyboard.
Yes, for sure.
All right, this was fun. Yeah, thank you for coming on.
It's always a blast getting to podcast with you.
Yes, let me try to figure this out here because I'm running the ticker here. I was doing so good, and then my brain just stopped working, and because it's 5:00 somewhere here anyway. But yes, design. Here we go. Yes, this is Thanksgiving week. Be sure to hang out with your loved ones, have a good time, drive safe, don't do anything dumb, because life's going to carry on with or without you, and hopefully you get to be part of it.
Yes, definitely.
Yes. All right. This was the Blog and Dirty podcast.